Hey, this weekend, a bunch of needle freaks and drug addicts are going to descend upon Las Vegas. I know, that's every weekend in Las Vegas. Welcome back to After Further Review. I'm Jim Watson. That's B. Weitzner. The other guy, of course, is Tommy Catlin, our producer, pushing the buttons. So a couple of weeks ago, we told you about the enhanced games, where the use of performance-enhancing drugs is not only acceptable, but it's encouraged. Now, the whole thing has been funded by a bunch of billionaires, including Peter Thiel. We all know who he is, right? He did PayPal, he did Facebook, he did SpaceX. Boy, I'm beginning to think he's a winner. He seems to know what's going on. So the enhanced games aim to challenge the limits of athletes with legal drugs, PEDs, as long as they're legal. So right away, Pete, are you intrigued?
So I'm intrigued. As we're doing this segment, it is not being broadcast. I don't want to say this is indicative of the reception it's getting. It's not being broadcast on any known cable broadcast. It's streamed. But I am intrigued. Peter Thiel's associated with it. Donald Trump Jr. is associated with it, and this big hedge fund that he's part of. So when people like that, great respect for Peter Thiel, are part of it, but and know what? It's good prize money. So there's 40 some odd athletes. That's a big reason I'm sure they're doing it. It's track, it's swimming. Jim, what's the third? Right? It's
weightlifting.
Weightlifting. These athletes, they're not the multimillionaires of all the other sports. So taking a million to the top winner. So I'm sure they're lured by, but of course it is heavily monitored. All the drugs are illegal. I mean, they're banned, of course, right? You couldn't do them in baseball or football or certainly the Olympics. Sebastian Coe,
WADA.
like the head.
Right. WADA is the organization for the Olympic Games. Yeah, right.
So, but the libertarian in me, and I know it's a bigger stripe with you, says it's their money. The athletes are doing it. Some are doing it even without participating in the drug part, which I God bless them. A few.
Yeah, one of the swimmers, Armstrong, maybe, I'm trying to remember his last name. I don't want to get that wrong, but yeah, he says if I can't, he's doing it for the prize money, but he says he's not going to take any PEDs because he says if I just try to train on my own for the next Olympic Games, I go broke. I don't have any money. I don't have any sponsors. Nobody's paying me to train, but they're paying these guys to train. They invited a bunch of people, and then they took them to Abu Dhabi, right? Or Dubai to train, where there's a former military facility, has a track, has an Olympic-sized pool. They keep them all there. They have the medical staffs there. So they monitor their programs. They do a lot of blood tests. They do a panel with them. They did a baseline and they keep an eye on them. And most of them say they're doing it to see what their limit is. And then they're going to stop. Now, you hope they do, because you hope these aren't addictive. I think most of these athletes, Pete, it seems to me they're at the back end of their career, and this is that one last hurrah. And they say, listen, this might work. This might lead to more. They're getting some PR. Otherwise, they're all done, and they go get a job at Home Depot, and we never hear from them again. So I don't begrudge the athletes. And you talked about our libertarian strike. This is an adult doing something that's being heavily monitored. They're doing it as an experiment. They're doing it to extend their careers. Nobody's making them do it. They're banned drugs, not illegal drugs. So I get it. You're trying to walk on the edge of a fence here, but I don't have a big problem with it. Listen, we've already seen the X Games. We've seen all the extreme sports and Red Bull sponsors. We're into MMA now. So we've already left the world. We're paying college athletes now. Let's not be naive. The world is changing. And at some point, much like we found out with COVID and so many other things, they're going to find out ivermectin, right? These drugs aren't as bad as people think. And maybe like they're finding out with Ozempic now that it actually holds off cancer. Did I read that the other day? I don't know if they can replicate that in a lab, but there's always those unintended consequences and sometimes benefits, because let's all remember that Viagra was actually supposed to be a blood pressure medicine. It certainly is at my house.
Yeah, I think Upjohn, got swallowed up. Had it as a blood pledge, and oh, look at this! It has an addiction. And
Yeah,
40
I don't
years
think
later,
there were lines around the block when it was a blood pressure medicine.
Uptown, kind of a interesting name.
isn't that crazy? It never occurred to me.
No, me neither. But then again, you and I
Tommy.
are normal, and there's a reason he's in a dark cave by himself.
Tommy always goes there. Always goes there. You know,
Goes there. He gets his mail there, Pete.
we're old enough when I still hear, and so it's steroids, it's HGH, it's all the usual, right? But those are not illegal. But I still think, and Tommy, you're a big baseball guy, I think of guys like Ken Caminiti and Lyle Alzado, but it's a different era. Like there was no one policing it, and so this is being policed. I gave a TED talk about 15 years ago. I forget even the topic, but they're kind of cool things. You get 8 minutes, and you're supposed to pick some high-minded thing to discuss. And they do actually kind of. And one of my colleagues, Chapman hosted it. One of my colleagues there, super like esteemed guy. I'm not going to say his name. His whole thing was cocaine should be legal, and he had all these. And anyone can. There's plenty. There's that group out there to all their reasons. But at the end of it, I go, and it was grounded in science. I just thought to myself, you could have picked anything. Why are you picking that? So I kind of
You want to be controversial, clickbait, try to get attention.
Peter Thiel doesn't need that. Doesn't need clickbait. Palantir is like going to be one of the nifty 10. He doesn't need the money. So why back this? I guess that's my negative reaction to it is why this. And I'm not so I'm sure there's going to be world record set. I'm sure because
they're going to get bonuses. So you get paid if you win, and then you get a bonus if you set a world record, which of course will not be recognized by the international bodies, but it sure will make people think about it. Now, listen, Pete, as I look at this, we've seen this kind of thing before in sports where they dance close to the edge. In swimming, they wore the bodysuits. Remember? They wore it, I think, for one Olympic cycle. Remember when swimmers were wearing the pants and it goes all the way up into suspenders? And they found out that actually made you were able to swim faster because you have less friction in the water. Those are now illegal.
Yes.
So swimming tried that. Nike came up with a shoe that was shaped so that it sprung you forward so that your strides were longer, which meant on a 400-meter track, you would take 1.5 less strides, which meant you're faster. So these are all things that now are illegal. But for a few minutes, for a cup of coffee, we all said, isn't this wonderful that we can do it this way? And look how much faster and better the times are. When I was in swimming, in the breaststroke, you weren't allowed to put your head underwater. If you put your head underwater on your outstroke, you were disqualified. Now guys go underwater. How many times did you watch Phelps do the dolphin kick off the wall and stay underwater for half of the length of the pool? In the old days, the timing flags over the last quarter of the pool, you had to be up before that. So everything's changed since I was competing in sports. Listen, you can say this is the future of sports, but it's actually the present and it's also the past because people have been cheating in sports for as long as they've been paying people to win at sports. And I know Tommy likes my list, so I made just a little short list, if you'll indulge me. How about this? These are all people that we know of. I bet you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And these are all freaking cheaters. Gaylord Perry's Vaseline. Let me go. Gangsters juicing boxer's water bottle. Rosie Ruiz and her taxi cab marathon. Sosa's cork bat. McGuire's juice box. The East German swim team. Ben Johnson's pep pills. Tom Brady's deflated balls. Bobblehead Barry Bonds' deflated balls. Lying Lance Armstrong's lonely ball. The Black Sox paid to not play scandal. Tonya Harding's Galooly. Maradona's hand of God. The Astros trash can. Bobby Thompson's tip-off. George Brett's pine tar. Danny Almonte's birth certificate. Tim Donaghy's whistle while you work. And the 1970 Junior All-American Tustin Bobcats, who actually sewed fishing weights into my girdle so I could make weight and lead us to the clinic championship of Southern California. It's still there. There's a plaque. And then
What championship? Your clinic?
here's the best one. Junior, clinic. You had to be 7 and 8 years old. I was a
Busted
starting
with
quarterback
killers.
2 seasons in a row. I weighed 53 pounds. The low weight was 55. They needed me. They wanted me on that wall. They needed me on that wall. All right. And then this is the worst case of cheating I've ever seen in sports. I forgot all about this one. When I worked for NBC, I did a bunch of Olympics. I did Paralympics. I did all kinds of youth Olympics. I did a bunch of events for them. The 2000 Paralympics, they had a mentally disabled category. In 2000, Spain, the Spanish basketball team, won the championship. Found out later, only 2 of their athletes were mentally disabled. The rest were faking it. Johnny Knoxville made a movie about this called The Ringer, which is awesome, where he tries to pretend that he can compete in Special Olympics. So look, this has been going on forever, and it's never going to stop. So you can go ahead and try to draw lines in the sand, and people are going to continue to step over them. And if enough people step over them, they're going to drag that line along with them, because it's already happened. So it reminds me of what the great philosopher Ricky Bobby once said. Hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.